Hi, so a few people asked about how to incorporate qualitative research in your written report, and do you include all of the transcripts and the raw data? So I'm going to show you a few examples from some of my work. So the first paper that I'm going to show you is a paper that I'm going to be presenting at AERA this spring, and it's not action research, but it's practitioner inquiries. So related to action research within the same genre, but for a different purpose. And this one is about a PBL unit that my team and I revamped, and the purpose of the paper is to talk about how PBL can be used to restore curricular joy for students. So here, like I mentioned, it is a little bit different from action research, but you can see here data sources listed here, and a description of those data analysis, how I did that. And then in the result, you can see I structured themes here. And then as I'm discussing those excerpts. So here, this is a quote from an interview with a teacher right here. So you can see this one is a block quote. And if you watched my lecture on APA style, you'll know about the formatting. If it's 40 words or more, then you make a block quote. So this one is a block quote that I used as an example to talk about this theme that I'm talking about. Then also, I included a few artifacts. So this might come up for some of you if you are including student work or pictures from your lesson. These are pictures from our lesson. So including something like that, you can put that in there to show an example of what you're talking about. Here, and this particular paper is a data source. I actually included my own memos. So that is what that looks like here. Here is another quote from a third grader. I believe that this is from some of their work, their journaling that I included in there. Again, this theme here is about how third grader. Here, you like how they felt about it, and I'm discussing about how this quote, what the student said, is illustrating this theme. Then here is like an excerpt from their work, what that might look like. And then here you can see another quote from another teacher about that too. This one is not a block quote because it's less than 40 words. Here is another theme that I'm discussing. You'll see a quote and then also an excerpt of data here. Some more photographs. So that's an example of how you can include those as you are discussing your findings. So you don't need to include all of the transcripts, all of the raw data sources. You can include, if you have data tables for quantitative data, you can include that, or use the quotes or the example artifacts to illustrate the point that you are making, to illustrate what you found in your findings. So this is another paper that is not action research at all. It is discourse, but because insurrection. So, and my feelings of a catchy title, but to make, I can't remember. It was for thing at the time trending about like, it's me, such and such. And now I don't remember. But it's about a meme that went viral on Twitter after as kind of a reaction to the January 6th insurrection. So this one here, you can see an example of, so the tweet doesn't exist anymore, but I did originally have the link to the tweet, but then I also, thank goodness, I'm glad I did this in retrospect, but have this is like a bit of an interview transcript. So if you have a section of an interview transcript that is just really what we refer to in qualitative research as salient, meaning that it just really illustrates the theme that you found, you can include a little chunk like this, but not the entire interview transcript, but just the part that is relevant. There are, so yeah, so all of the other examples here are Twitter, and then okay, so this study is also not action research, but it is a qualitative interview study. And this one, the title, I wasn't even planning on talking about titles, but here we are. This title is using the technique of using a very, again, salient data quote, a quote from an interview in the title from a participant. So this interview study was done with high school students who were at a camp at Georgia State over the summer. They were STEM students who were also interested in teaching. So the program was geared to get students who both help strengthen their STEM skills and then also encourage them to consider teaching. And so this interview study was about their perceptions of race and gender in STEM, as oftentimes the target of these programs. So this one, if we don't have diversity, there's no future to see. What a great quote. I love it so much. High school students' perceptions of race and gender representation in STEM. And you will see is, again, it's not action research, so we, but this is an example of something that you could do. This is a table of the like the themes or the categories. So if you do coding, I know that we saw some great examples when we were on Zoom with the case studies. But if you do coding, you can also include in your final paper a table that goes through the categories, how you define it, and then an example quote. So, and even for action research, I don't like, you could use something like this to as like your outline and then write it in narrative form and just make these your headings. So when you talk about your category, you can title it, then define what you mean by that, and then use the quotes from your either interviews or quotes from your observations, your field notes, or artifacts. You can use some of those to explain how you came to that definition. So that is in things here, and when just these are, and so I'm not including the entire interview transcript. I am pulling out the relevant quotes to discuss the findings. So that is an example of that. And yes, this article might be of interest too for someone for their literature review, perhaps. I don't think anyone's doing anything like this, but okay, so those are some examples. I'm trying to think if there is anything else, but just wanted to show you that. So let me know if you have other ideas or questions about how to include how to represent your qualitative research when discussing your findings.